What's up, y'all? It's Matt with Family Tradition Farms. It's my most favorite time of the year. It's planting time. We got the 806 and the John Deere 7000 ready to go out here in the field. I planted a little bit last night just to make sure everything was working right. It was a good thing I did because everything wasn't working right. Let me show you what we got. First off, I'm going to get the old gal fired up so she's got a second to warm up because it's a little nipply out here this morning. So yesterday I got a little bit of planting done in. Like I said, I wanted to just make sure everything on the planter was working right. And got to the end of one of my rows, picked up, turned around. When I set the planter back down, something got in a bind. And anyway, the chain broke. This chain right here got in a bind, broke, and it bent that bolt, which actually bent this whole frame. It's hard to tell, but I had to get a new bolt, and that bolt is bent to compensate for the bend in the frame. I fought that thing to get it straightened up, but I did finally get it. We were able to plant a little bit. Everything seems to be working right now. So this morning, it's not even sun's not even up yet, guys. It's barely peeking up over the, barely peeking up over right there. We're getting an early jump on it. We're gonna get some corn planted first. Hopefully, if all of that goes smooth, we'll switch over, get the planter switched over, get the bean meters put in, and then we should be able to get our soybeans planted today too. It's gonna be a long day. It's gonna be lots of hours on the tractor seat, but as long as everything goes smooth, we should get it all finished up today. You guys hang out with me. We're gonna get after it. Every year, we try to learn a little bit more about how to plant well, different agronomic practices, especially on no-till with cover crop. Takes a lot of adapting. I've already learned two things this year. First off, don't kill the cover crop ahead of time. I've got a field of cereal rye behind me. It got roughly knee high. We went ahead and killed it off. We're worried about some weather issues. It's awful to plant through. The planter is getting into it, but it's struggling. I can't see my marker arms. The planter's just getting absolutely covered in filth. On top of that, the second thing we've learned, wait until the dew burns off to start planting. I spent the last 30 minutes unmudding this planter. All of these gauge wheels have just been packed with mud around the edges here. Had to break all those off. The row cleaners covered with mud. I haven't done these two down here. You can see how bad they are, just covered. Now the thing is, the soil's ready to go. I mean, the soil's dry. It's planting really well. It's just that dead cover crop on top is just holding on to the dew, and everything's just getting wet. So what would typically just be dust covering the planter is turned into mud from all the dew. So two lessons: don't kill the cover crop early, and second, wait till the dew burns off to start planting. Alright guys, all you fancy big time farmers, you got electric row shut-offs, hydraulic row shut-offs, even section control. Out here I got manual. As you can see, my end row is at an angle and my other row is straight, so I've got a triangle right through here that I want to shut some rows off. So back here on every row unit, you've got to disengage. Basically this lever right here, just pull it out and that disengages the box. Now I'm going to shut off these four, so I'm only planting these two. I'll drive forward, I don't know, 25, 30 yards or so. I'll stop, engage these two, go forward another, I don't know, 15 yards or so, and then engage those last two. And while I do that, I'll also drop the marker arm down, because right now, if I have the marker arm out, it's going to be chopping right where I've already got corn planted. So don't really want to do that, but easiest way to do it is just to manually shut off a couple of these rows. All right, we got corn finished up. Didn't really take too long. It's about noon right now. We ran into a little snag trying to get from the field back down to the shop so we can switch the planter over to beans. The county highway department decided it was a good day to dig out the ditches, which great, that's fine, that's what they needed done. But their little excavator broke down on the road and they couldn't move. Like, the outriggers were stuck down. It was not moving. So we sat there for an hour. I actually started switching the planter over in the middle of the road, waiting on them to get out of the way. Finally, they got out of the way. I was able to get back down here to the shop, started switching the planter over to beans. Now, let me show you what we have to do. So the first thing is we had to take all the corn meters off of the boxes and put these Kinsey brush meters on here. I did just fresh rebuild on them. They've got all brand new brushes, brand new backing plates, and brand new 60 cell discs. Now we got to take these off because the soybeans are planted at a much higher population, and this is the only way to get consistent high population of the soybeans. So after we get those taken off, then we had to come back outside here to the planter, and we got to work on changing populations over. So when we're planting corn, because we're planting at such small populations, we use a sprocket this size. Now, when we switch to beans, we have to go to a sprocket that size, twice as big. The reason we have to do that is because our planter is 30-inch spacings, and I want to plant on 15-inch spacings. So basically, I'm going to plant the field twice, and in order to get the right population, I have to cut it in half. It's a big mathematical equation, but basically, that shaft drives this, and by having a bigger sprocket on there, it's going to slow this down. And that's going to basically, this whole shaft, which runs all the meters, that's going to slow those down by half rate. So it allows me to plant the desired population by going over twice, making 15-inch rows. So you got to extend the chain a little bit. We got a little homemade bracket here for the tensioner. Still got to set population. And then put the boxes back on. While we've got it down here, we'll probably go ahead and grease up the chains. They're in good shape, but I always like to keep them good and greased, because when one of those breaks, it's a nightmare. You get pretty upset. Also need to change the depth. We were planting corn at 2 inches. That's a little deep for soybeans. I'm going to back that down to 1.5 inches. And that's probably about it. The row cleaners are they should be in good shape there. I'm going to get this switched over here. So that's basically all we got to do to the bean planter. Now it's a bean planter. We're still waiting on the highway department right there to get their excavator out of the way. So even after I get this thing switched over, I can't get back down the road to get to my field. I was able to get out. They limped it to the side of the road, but I can't get back down there to it. So I'm going to take my time, make sure everything's right, make sure everything's greased, make sure everything's good to go, and then we'll get back down to planting soybeans. We're putting beans in the ground behind me, guys. Now, this is going to take twice as long as normal because the planter is 30-inch spacing, but I want to plant on 15-inch spacing. So what I have to do is plant the whole field all the way down and then turn around and do the same thing over, but offset at 15 inches. Let me show you how we do that. You can see these rows all the way down. They're not real defined, but they are a little bit. And then the marker track looks just a touch different. So the way you hit 15 is typically you put the center of your tractor right down that marker and you're spaced properly from the pass before. But to do 15s, you kick off to one side. Now, instead of the marker path being your center of the tractor, one of your rows is the center of your tractor. And that will offset it right in the middle so that you're at 15-inch spacings. Anyways, guys, it's going to be a long afternoon, so I'm going to get back after it. That way we can make sure we get this done before the rain. Well, found my first complaint with the row cleaners. So when we come back through here and I'm hitting the 15-inch spacings, the row cleaners are actually throwing the material into the rows that already had planted. Not terribly, but it is noticeable. So right here, this is where I came through this last time. Right here. Well, right in the middle, that's the row from the beginning. That was my first pass. Now it's still noticeable, but it did throw some material back in on top of it. Not terrible. Not terrible by any means. I mean, it's pretty loose. Everything that it threw back on top is loose, so the soybean shouldn't have any problem getting through. But it is something that if you're going to do a whole lot of 15-inch beans, maybe the row cleaners aren't the best tool for you. But I know for me, I think it's going to work great, and I'm really excited to see just how these yield. Well, I am absolutely exhausted. I finally got planting done, got the planter backed into the barn. I'm gonna go get cleaned up, get some supper, and probably crash out for the night. I appreciate you guys hanging out with us while I got a whole bunch of planting done today. If you got any questions or comments, drop them down below. And if you aren't subscribed already, go ahead and hit that button. It really helps my channel out. So once again, I appreciate you guys. Thanks, and you guys have a good one. Kids, stay in school, or at least pay attention in math class. I messed up yesterday on the soybean population. It's a whole big math equation, and basically somewhere along the lines I did the math wrong, ran out of soybean seeds. So there's like 5 acres that only got half population. Let me show you exactly what we got. So what it is, we've got a chart, and this chart is your population chart. Now this is pretty simple. It tells you what sprockets to set your planter at so that the shafts and everything turn at the right speed and put the right amount of seed in the ground. You basically just adjust this sprocket set and that sprocket set. Well, that's great, except for this is for your corn meters, which are a different type of metering system than your soybean meters. So the soybean meters have 60 cells in them, 60 holes for soybeans. Your corn meters only have 12. So you've got to take this number right there and multiply that by 5. So where it says S at 27.7, that tells me my sprocket ratio of what I need to plant. Multiply that by 5, that's where you get the 138.5 thousand, which is my desired seeding rate for soybeans. On top of that, if that wasn't complicated enough, you then have to divide that by 2 because every one of these rows I'm going to double. So basically, I'm going to go over the field twice to make my 15-inch rows. So by doing that, how we do that is this drive sprocket, the silver one right here, we end up putting this guy on, which is twice the size of the normal drive. So as the ratio goes, that back one drives, and instead of turning this a full revolution, it's only going to turn that shaft a half revolution. So then this chain in turn does not move as far, and then that shaft, which runs all the way along the planter and actually drives down here along the chain and drives your boxes, that guy moves slower. This is how you get your actual population that you want. Somewhere along the lines I messed up in my math, because after you figure out the desired population that you want to plant at, you then have to figure out how many bags of seeds you need. So 1 unit of soybean seeds is 140,000 seeds. So if you have X amount of acres to cover and you want to put X amount of population down, you then have to figure out how many units you need to buy, or in my case, bags. 1 bag is typically 1 unit. I didn't order enough, didn't buy enough bags. So somewhere my algebra and math just didn't work out. Messed up, had to go buy 3 more bags this morning, but we've got it. It's a little bit different variety, but it's super close. So we shouldn't have any problems as far as one growing quicker than the other one. So I got about 6 acres left that I was short on. We're going to jump back on the tractor and planter and hopefully get that knocked out pretty quick this afternoon. So stick around a little bit longer. Plant 23 is almost done.
Well, that's going to do it for spring planting here at Family Tradition Farms. The row cleaners overall work far better than the no-till coulters, and I did go ahead and take the last 2 rows of no-till coulters off and replace them with the row cleaners. I also, after the fact, figured out why my planting population on my soybeans was off. The larger sprocket I installed, which I thought was a 50% population sprocket, was actually a 60%. So I ended up planting the total field at 120% of my original desired population. Originally, I wanted 138,000. I ended up planting almost 168,000. Not a big deal. I just spent a little bit more money in seed than what I had originally thought. Overall, spring planting went very smoothly. I appreciate you guys hanging along with us. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Thanks. You guys have a good one.